Hello and welcome to Freedom Through Astrology, where we're giving you the keys. And this is freedomthroughastrology.com. I'm your astrologer, Donald Patak, and my contact information, standard YouTube copyright. And no, my content may not be used to train AI LLMs. You're not going to pay me, you don't need it. Keys to the reading, part one, because I do read astrology differently. First of all, I read what's called constellation-based astrology or true sidereal. It's astrology by the visible sky. In ancient times, astrologers were also astronomers. Tropical astrology fixed the signs to seasons. However, the constellations still kept moving. Granted, it's one full degree every 72 years, but they kept going. That's how we get our astrological ages. So I am continuing that ancient tradition of reading astrology by the visible sky. Secondly, with the visible sky, that gives us an additional sign between Scorpio and Sagittarius. It's called a fucus. The symbols of a person holding a snake by the head and the tail. The snake in ancient times symbolized knowledge. So it's holding it by the head and tail, controlling knowledge or using knowledge. According to the various mythos, whether it's a fucus, Asclepius, etc., the knowledge that was gained is healing and how to heal yourself so that you can heal others with similar wounds. Point three with the visible sky is that I use the natural size of the constellations. There are astrologers who will try to force them to all be the same size. In reality, they vary. Mother Nature, the divine, whatever you believe in its wisdom, made all the constellations different sizes. Virgo is huge at just under 40, just under 50 degrees. I think it's 48 and a half or something like that off the top of my head. But Aries, Cancer, Libra, Scorpio, Fucus, individually, they're less than 25 degrees. The constellations all vary in sizes in the visible sky. I leave them that way. And I use astrological midpoints as opposed to the IAU boundaries. The IAU boundaries can take stars from one constellation and put them into a different one. Athens Chimenti noted this with the border between Scorpio and a Fucus, where stars from Scorpio were actually over the border and into a Fucus. So what he did was he looked at the zodiac belt. What's the last bright star of constellation A? First bright star of constellation B? What's the halfway point? And it works pretty well. I apologize for my voice. There's some sort of bug going around school, and I caught a full lung of it. On the bright side, I'm now down to that for the injury bandage on my finger. I actually have use of 3 of the 4 fingers on my hand. Let's see. Keys to the reading, part 2. I interpret using evolutionary astrology, which says these transits are lessons to learn. And in key point is that you have freedom of choice. You can decide how you're going to work with these lessons, whether you go for the high road or the low road. And this is the weekly edition. So these are universal lessons. So do have some compassion on your fellow earth travelers or ground pounders, as I frequently call them. Dates and times are based on the Eastern US time zone. I'm operating within 1 degree of exact. That makes the chart manageable for me. I could do wider, but I would get overwhelmed. And if I'm overwhelmed, you're lost. And especially like with a chart with this week, with all the transits that are going on, especially with the nodes of the moon, it would be a really, really overwhelming reading. And the software that I'm using is Capricorn by Prometheus. If you like the way the software looks, it is actually really good software. It is going to be released through the ISAA. Gavin's going to be, I think his name is Gavin, is going to just focus on development, and the ISAA is going to worry about sales and licensing and all of that. And they're going to make it affordable as well. All righty. So these are the weekly transits for the week of May 18th through 24th. When I show you the next slide, you're going to understand why I've broken this up into 3 if this is the first time you're seeing this recording. This week is very, very intense because of aspects, I should have put it in here, to the nodes of the moon. A lot of astrologers don't read them in transit. I do. Years ago, we did have Pluto T-square the nodes of the moon, and people just couldn't figure out what was going on. I showed them Pluto, nodes of the moon, T-square, explained everything. So I do include the nodes of the moon in my transit readings. It adds a lot to this week. So the moon, when it will so we do have the sun in Taurus right now. The moon for this particular reading, which is for the 23rd and the 24th, so Saturday into Sunday, the moon will be Leo into Virgo. We should have done that. And we did have the first quarter moon in Leo this morning, Saturday, May 23rd at 6:50 a.m. That explains why my cats were arguing with each other. For this particular reading, all week, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, those are the big planets were going to be active this week. This reading is going to focus on the Sun and Mars. Those two are going to be active Saturday and Sunday. I wanted to get this done earlier, but I just was so sick that I couldn't do it. I could barely talk. We are dealing with the sign change. Mars is now in Aries, learning to have courage. Very important. No long transits, but we do have Pluto retrograde, and that is going to fit into this reading today. And we do have both the sun and Mars aspecting the nodes of the moon. That is going to be very prominent. And the nodes of the moon tell you about your destiny and purpose in life. So let's go to the next. And here you go. Here we are, Saturday and Sunday. This is what we're reading. So we do have the moon starting. Oh, let me clear that out. I don't like that. We do have the moon starting in Leo with that first quarter moon. I'm going to just focus on the new transits for this week. This is recording number 3 here, which has the focus on, as you can see, Mars and the sun. This part here is video number 2. And as you can see, it has a very strong Venusian flavor. 3 of the transits are Venus. There is a little bit with the sun and Mercury, but overwhelming, the flavor is Venus. And this was reading number 1, which, as you can see, very strong flavor of Mercury. So we're focusing here. And as you can see, the nodes of the moon, just clear. No. The nodes of the moon are 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6 transits are dealing with the nodes of the moon. Very, very powerful. This is your destiny and purpose in life and how you hold yourself back from it. The other 2 transits we have, one deals with the sun and Neptune, and the other one deals with Mars and Pluto. So, just going to clear this out. So, as you can see, a lot happening, a lot really happening, but the greatest part of it is dealing with your destiny and purpose in life. Whoops. Oh. Yeah, my phone goes into sleep mode and it goes into black and white, and then it times out real quick. So let me clear this out, close this out, escape. Just gonna do it that way. I can always jump back. Now, Let me pull this up here. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start right here. And in the interest of expediting things, um, I'm going to read the transits for the nodes of the moon together. And then I'll be an interloper or an other reading that happens in between. I do want to start though with right about here-ish. There we go. We do have the moon squaring the sun, and this gives us our first quarter moon. And a square, understand the purpose of a square is a challenge that strengthens you. So the moon in Leo is learning to express itself and learn to express your needs, express your feelings. And as you're learning, that strengthens your core identity and helps you to find the peace and strength that comes from that. So this is really you learning how, when you share what you're feeling inside, how it strengthens who you are at heart, and you can better understand that. And yes, find the strength, yeah. And how, when you actually share that honestly and appropriately, can bring you peace and calm in life. Now, the shadow of the square is a crushing burden that it can also be a stumbling block and leads to it becoming a crushing burden. So the moon in Leo, instead of learning to share appropriately, becomes that drama king or drama queen. Now, this can be over the top. We're all aware of the over the top drama king and drama queen, but it's also that person that doesn't want to be seen and will go out of their way to make sure that that doesn't happen. I mean, drama queens and drama kings can happen many different ways. So there's the person who's going out of their way to be seen or out of their way to hide away. And that leads to a stumbling block and a crushing burden. And that fuels the shadow of the sun is the false ego. And it can fuel laziness. The shadow of Taurus can be laziness, but I will also tell you Taurus can have quite the temper. And it can either be lazy, oh well, who cares? I don't want to do it. Or it can be that bull in a china shop. It's one of the things we do need to be careful of. So pointless drama can have you stumbling into predictable ruts. We all know, I hate to say it, but people are predictable. Very rarely do they deviate from certain behaviors. So, if you were to fall into the shadow of this and you're that drama queen, we can expect the bull in the china shop, that over the top person. However, that quiet person is going to be could be more out of laziness. That's my personal opinion on that one. Now let's jump. Let me close this out so we can get this to move. There we go. And like I said, in the interest of expediting things and a little bit of clarity, I am going to cluster the reading of the nodes together, and then there's another reading that's always sandwiched in between. So as you can see, let me get my doodle tool here. Pull this over. As you can see, the nodal transit here is Mars in a sextile and trine to the nodes of the moon. So let's pull that up here. Oops. We're dealing with the nodes of the moon, not the moon here. So the nodes of the moon typically are in opposition to each other. There are times when they're just a little bit out, but for the most part, they are always in opposition. So we have Mars in Aries, learning to have courage, to find the courage and have courage. Also taking necessary risks. So it is Mars rules Aries. So this it's very happy to be in this sign. So but it's about learning to have courage, taking necessary risks, standing up for yourself. And it is trying the South Node in Leo. Now, a trine is a support. This is both of these are, excuse me, easy energies to work with. So the trine is a support. So as you're learning to have courage, find that inner strength, stand up for yourself, this supports you becoming more aware of how you've held yourself back with drama and ways that you've self-sabotaged with drama and this over-the-top behavior. You become aware of it. It's like, oh, getting into this situation. Ooh, I've done that in the past. I want to have the courage to change that. Become aware of it, put a stop on it, do something different, or learn to respond appropriately. So that's the trine, that's the support. At the same time, now the shadow here is falling into fear. And as it falls into fear, it fuels that pointless drama. Now, when I say falling into fear, and fear can come across as anger, and that's that drama queen with the outbursts of anger and temperamental and creating a scene and a stink, or it's that person who's trying to hide away, falling into fear, cowardice, and they're just trying to hide away and do anything to get out of having to be seen and getting out of that. So let's see, what did we have here? Gosh, this thing is timing out so fast. So learning how to, so in the positive, learn how having courage can support awareness of how you've held yourself back with drama and having the strength to change the response. The shadow slipping into fear can fuel pointless drama and result in you holding yourself back. When you slip into that shadow and you're falling into that you're falling into that drama, you're self-sabotaging. I'm just going to call it what it is. Now, that's on Saturday. On Sunday, very early Sunday, Mars will be sextiling the North Node in Aquarius. And a sextile is a sense of excitement or interest. So as you're learning to have courage and assertiveness, standing up for yourself, it's creating this interest in your North Node in Aquarius. Now, key to understanding the nodes is understanding them in your birth chart and what the key lessons are for your birth chart. So for me, for example, my North Node is in Pisces, learning spirituality. We may have a kitten visitor. Okay, nope, not going to have a kitten visitor. So I'm learning. So with the North Node in Pisces, the key here is learning authenticity and making your life's destiny and purpose unique and authentic to yourself. So for me, with my North Node in Pisces, I'm learning my own authentic spirituality and what my own spiritual journey is. Now, what everybody else says it has to be, oh, you really have to read this book. It's awesome. It helped me out so much. Not my cup of tea. This is my cup of tea. I'll drink this. Peppermint. I'll do the chamomile later. So as you're learning to have courage, it creates an interest in you fulfilling your authentic destiny. However, as you're falling, if you fall into fear, and that can be that anger or cowardice, you're giving your power away. You're either just being mindlessly destructive and ruining your destiny that way, or you're selling yourself out and giving your power away to others and letting other people define your purpose. So ideally, we said the ideal is acting courage can create an interest in fulfilling your authentic destiny. The shadow stepping into fear leads to your selling out your life purpose to the interest of others, or just outright ruining it. You're just going to do things just to push people's buttons and provoke them. So let's clear that out. And let's talk about this intermediate one, which is the sun in Taurus. finding the peace and strength from being who you really are at heart. And that is in a sextile. Where is that? Yeah. And it's not like this is a nice, one of those, there's coughs that are coughs. This is that dry hacking cough. Not a fun one to have. So we have the sun in Taurus, sextiling Neptune in Pisces. So the sun in Taurus, finding peace with who you are at heart. So understand what your natal sun sign is and learn to find the peace and strength that comes from being who you really are at heart. And Neptune in Pisces, lesson here, and I like the way Stephen Forrest says this, don't just do something, be there. So it's learning to be present and in the present moment and spiritually aware of what's going on in this present moment. Forget the past, don't worry about the future. As Ram Dass says, be here now. So it's learning that. So finding the strength that comes from inner peace, and it creates an interest in your being present and aware of this current moment and what opportunities are afforded there. Now, the shadow here, the sun is falling into false drama, and this can be laziness. You're not being who you are at heart. You're just being lazy about it, or you're being really royally stubborn and bull in the china shop. Strength taken to an extreme is a weakness here. And the sextile of Neptune and Pisces is just escapism, trying to numb the pain of living an empty life and trying to hide away or escape from it and what seems to be the meaninglessness of life. So, being lazy, collapsing in the fall, ego can have you wanting to escape or try to live in an illusion of life, not life as it really is, but in a self-created illusion. You're basically deluding yourself. And it can have you wanting to numb the pain of living that empty life. So there's that. Now, oops, I gotta close this. Man, it doesn't have to close out so fast. And let's go here. 2, 3. And this gets us Sunday's transits. And here we have, where's my doodle tool? Go. And we're again dealing with the South Node and the North Node. But in this case, oops, there we go. The sun is in a square to both the South Node and the North Node. So it's squaring the South Node, squaring the North Node. It's basically caught between, for lack of a better term, caught between a rock and a hard place. So the sun, I said, it's your core identity. It's who you are at heart, and find the peace and strength that comes from that. Square is a challenge whose purpose is to strengthen you. The way I slept all day, you figure I'd be more awake. Nope. So we first have it squaring the North Node. So as you find that peace, that inner peace and strength that comes from being who you really are at heart, it is supporting your North Node. Oh, that was weird. It's supporting your North Node, which is your life's destiny and purpose, and it's strengthening your ability to fulfill that. Fulfill your purpose in life and make it true to who you are and true to its original intentions. And the shadow here is the sun falling, because living out of the false ego, you being who you are not. And it comes out of laziness or stubbornness. And granted, you shouldn't be who other people say you should be, but people can give you feedback. It's like, hey, when you do this, that's really you. Sometimes people's feedback can be very good, and they can tell you, that's really you. And we were just like, didn't realize that and all that. But you can be it's being stubborn or bullying at China shop, just damaging things because look, you're gonna leave me alone or else. And that creates a stumbling block that can actually damage your life's purpose and intentions. And you can either be selling them out to the expectations of others, or like I said, bull in the china shop. Instead of listening to good advice that could help you, you trash it. And it's like my way or the highway. And either I win or everybody loses. And not the way to go with it. And then we also have the sun squaring the south node in Leo. And so that's squaring the south node in Leo, you're becoming aware of how you hold yourself back with pointless drama, as being a drama queen or drama king. And whether that's that over the top or it's that person who's trying to hide away. But as you're finding that inner peace for being who you are at heart, you become more aware of how you've held yourself back with unnecessary drama. And you resolve to change. Instead of acting this way, I'm going to act more appropriately. And you make that change, and that strengthens your identity and it helps you learn how to respond more appropriately. The shadow is sun is that out of control ego, whether it's over the top or trying to hide away, and it just fuels that pointless drama of the past. You're repeating the problems of the past here. And whether that's that over the top drama king or drama queen, or that person that's trying to hide away and not be seen, it's instead of strengthening you, it becomes a crushing burden that weakens you. And you're just reliving and rehashing the problems of the past. And you still have that sextile to Neptune. So all that could be fueling. I'm surprised that, oh no, there is. It's an in conjunction. Is that an in conjunction? There's so much more going. I'm just using the basic five. But if I were to add in conjunction, semi-squares, sextiles, and stuff, man, this reading would be super long. But when you add in this, ideally, you're learning to be more present and more aware, or you're feeding a false or you're feeding illusion. Let's clear all that. And we have one more transit to talk about. And I remember when I first started reading astrology, this one was a cringe reading because it was just so bad. It was always a harbinger of bad news. Mars and anything with Pluto is always, oh, massive bad news. But in evolutionary astrology, it's good. It can be good news. Depends on how you choose to respond to it. So Mars in Aries is learning to have courage. Very much learning to have courage. And squaring Pluto. Pluto right now is retrograde, so it's reflecting on the work of transformation. What are you doing? How are you doing? Are you succeeding, etc.? So as you're learning to have courage, this is strengthening you're doing this work of this inner work and this reflection on the process of transformation. Pluto in Capricorn is doing the work of transformation. Right now, with Pluto retrograde, you're reflecting on the work and you're doing the inner work that precedes the success of the outwork in the outer world. If you plant a seed, it just doesn't pop up first. It does all that's germinating, grows the tail, etc., or its root grows the tail. Thinking biology here in the wrong sense, grows that tap root, and then it shoots out into the world and hopefully is a strong plant. So ideally, as you're learning to have courage, it's strengthening your ability to do the work of transformation. The shadow here is falling into that fear. and that's that anger or cowardice, and that creates a stumbling block and feel a crushing burden, and that fuels cynicism, nihilism, focus on the darkness, even defeatism, and it can result in isolation and loneliness. So if you fall into anger, it's just going to be lead to deeper wounding, isolation and loneliness. And then when we add in the North Node and the South Node, it's kind of interesting. There is an in conjunction, which leads to in conjunctions lead to breakthroughs. So this is a breakthrough to spirituality, and this is a breakthrough on the transformation. So as you becoming aware of how you hold yourself back with the pointless drama, how is that leading to a breakthrough in your spirituality? How is that leading to a breakthrough in your understanding of the work of transformation? Really potentially powerful stuff here. Clear all drawings. And then we just have one more thing to go, and this happens really royally late Sunday night here on the East Coast, and that's the moon enters Virgo, largest constellation in the sky, and we'll spend a bulk of the week of next week in Virgo. So the moon in Virgo is learning emotional, I call it learning emotional intelligence. You desire to become more skilled. Skilled in what? Your emotions and your ability to express them. So you're learning how to become more skilled with your emotional intelligence and looking for ways to accept, ways to be responsible in that. And know that there are teachers who will arise who can help you with this. So whatever you're going through, there's someone who can help you. The shadow here is falling into worry, pessimism, perfectionism. The ideal of Virgo is improvement. The shadow is perfectionism. And by holding yourself to these unrealistic expectations, it fuels worry, it fuels pessimism, and it fuels a sense of defeatism. Well, if I'm not going to be the best, why bother trying? And that's the last part of the reading. Some pretty intense stuff for this week, so to speak. So let's minimize that, maximize that. Go here. So thank you for watching this. Do follow me on social media. I am on Facebook and on Instagram, and you're watching this right now on YouTube. I might get this up on other stations or on other sites. These three are making billions of dollars off your data. Digital soul space, I call it the spiritual safe space of the internet, hosted on the mighty networks. You control your data, how it gets used. These people are making billions, not sharing it. You can say, no, I don't want my name attached to this data. People don't need to know. And you're right. I agree with that. They don't need to know. It's a great space. I call it the spiritual safe space of the internet. I do astrology on there. However, there are other astrologers. There's people who do tarot, people who do, oracle cards, crystals, herbal healing, manifesting, all different sorts of spiritual traditions and practices. Artwork, even there's a little thread on art going on right now. I mean, there's poetry. People share poetry. It's really, some of it's really good and really interesting. And it's a bully-free zone. There are 4 great moderators. I don't even realize there's problems happening most of the time because I haven't seen any. So we got 4 great moderators. There's a free version, which gets you limited access, and there's a paid version, which gets you full access. The paid version goes to 100% of that money goes to pay for the website, pay for the software, hosting and everything. Michael Robert does all the work out on the website on his own. It's a labor of love for him. He gets nothing for doing it, but I mean, it's just an amazing. There's also mediumship on there now that I remember. Yeah, that periodically that happens. There's all sorts of amazing things on this site. So do follow me. I I do readings and offer packages. If you want to know how your chart changes from tropical to true sidereal, get the quick six key points on your chart. And just understanding those six can help you a lot. In evolutionary, I do also read the birth chart, or it's also known as the natal chart. In evolutionary astrology, this is not who you are, it's who you came here to become. So it's the end all goal in life. I also do a karmic or a past life reading, depending on what people believe. If you believe in past lives, this is a past life that you had that created karma that you're reliving now or experiencing now with the intent of healing and releasing the wound. The birth charts focuses on your sun, moon, etc. The karmic chart is the south node and the north node, what your identity is and who you came here to become. And then and how you heal those wounds and release them. But if you're a one and done, and there are people who do that, I read it as a special lesson that you came here to heal. And I do offer horoscopes 1 year, any 12 months in a row, any 3 months in a row, or any 1 month. And that can be beginning the first to the last day of the month, or new moon to new moon. And I do have packages that combine these in various ways. So thank you very much for watching this. Do like, follow, and share. Sign up for the newsletter. You get a pop-up on the website. Just give me an email address once a week. You get an email from me giving you all this information in advance of everyone else and a few things that they don't get. So like, follow, share, sign up for the newsletter. And remember, in the visible sky, your life changes. Thank you very much. Have a good Saturday and Sunday, and these transits will kick into the beginning of next week. So hopefully your next week, beginning of next week goes well too. Thank you very much and enjoy.